Hello and welcome back everyone, we Weeb Online, and today I'm gonna continue the story What If Naruto Was Manipulated by Hinata, Part 5. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
That event took place 3 days ago. After that night, everything went back to how it was before. It wasn't talked about at all, like it never happened. I was walking toward the house where Haku and Kimimaro live after eating dinner, and Neji was following me with a big smile on his face. He asked, "Sister, did he spit something out?" No, he hadn't spoken anything. Ritsu had interrogated him to the best of his abilities, I said calmly. Even though it was a lie, I couldn't hurt my subject. That would hurt his worth too much. I see, he said with a laugh. When I said, "Don't worry, brother. He'll talk soon," I smiled and spoke with a mean grin. He sighed when he saw my smile and said, "You're being creepy again." He. I laughed at what he said. Crack. I opened the creaky door to the house and went inside. Haku and Kimimaro were sitting on the couch, waiting for me. Haku said with respect, "Lady Hinata, you are finally here," as he saw Neji with me. "Shut up, Haku-chan. You don't need to be so polite in front of my brother," I told him. I then looked at Neji and asked, "Right, brother? Whatever fits you, I am fine with it," he stated. I clapped my hands together and said, "Good. Let's go check out the lab." They were all thrilled to see the new thing right away. I went to a certain closet and pushed it open, which revealed a passageway below. "Let's go," I said, and I went downstairs. Candles lit the room, but Ritsu had to change the candles every 12 hours. We soon got to an iron door. As I spun the buttons like I was opening a treasure chest, the big door clicked open to reveal a lab with lots of extras. As I looked at the beautiful instruments, I thought, my dad is the best dad in the world. It didn't bother him to spend a lot of money. Neji was interested and pointed to a cylinder full of green liquid. "Sister, what is this for?" he asked. "If I put someone's organ in it, it will be preserved for a long time, without any damage or infection," I said. It was Ren and Ritsu that I saw. They were just standing there, not moving or getting in the way of us. I laughed and looked at the man who was trapped on the operating table by chains. "Oh ho ho, look what we have here, my killer," I said. Right away, all three of them got angry and were ready to kill the man if I told them to. I let out a soft laugh to show that I was happy with how they were acting. I finally walked over to the man and stepped onto the platform after checking out all the instruments. Because I'm short, this was put here. From all sides, Neji, Haku, and Kimimaro surrounded the man. "Brother, do you want to know how many times a person's heart beats?" I asked you. "I can see it with Byakugan," he said. I gave him a nod and then looked at them both. "What about you?" They both said, "I don't know," at the same time. I looked at Haku-chan and said, "He's going to my natural fridge." "That sounds good. Let me show you." I raised my hand, and a curved chakra scalpel appeared on my fingers. I put it on his chest. It was wrapped around his chest. "Freeze it, Haku-chan." The piece of meat was cut out of his chest before he lost any blood. Haku immediately froze his wound and the flesh that had been cut. I saw that his heart was between his ribs and was covered by a thin membrane with 2 layers. This membrane is called the pericardium. I looked at the beating heart and said, "Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 56, 72, 80, 84. The chakra makes the heart beat faster." Haku wrote it down right away in a book of data. Byakugan in use. I carefully studied how the heart works from the inside, including how the blood is pumped, how it is cleaned, and how long each cycle lasts. I didn't notice how time was slowly passing by. How could I blame the little girl for killing my mother? I didn't know what sickness my mother would get after Hanabi was born. She wasn't even born yet, and she didn't ask to be born either. I also couldn't let my mom die. If she died, it would be because I wasn't good enough. "So that's how the heart works," I finally said, turning off my eyes. I asked, "How long did it take?" "Almost 3 hours," Haku answered right away. I gave him a nod and looked at how sleepy Neji and Kimimaro looked. "If you want to go, you can." Neji said, I will stay, and I knew he only wanted to see this man suffer. And Kimimaro said, okay. He wasn't interested, though, so I didn't make him. I told them, let's see how long he could live after his heart stopped beating. 5 thick chakra strings snaked around his heart like evil snakes. With a flick of my finger, they got tighter and stopped his heart for good. I then watched his body to see what happened when the blood flow stopped. He could handle the first minute, but after that, he began to gape like a fish out of water. I didn't want to hurt my ears with his screams, so he had his mouth tightly shut. Heart, kidneys, and liver began to slowly die because they were not getting enough oxygen. His mind began to act in strange ways because his blood flow was cut off. I looked at his whole body calmly with my Byakugan. I pulled the chakra strings back after 5 minutes because I thought his brain might have died, and Haku-chan wrote it down. So he could live for 5 minutes. After that, his brain might stop working, I said. His flow was stable after 10 minutes. Haku-chan, give me the poison, I asked. Haku brought the poison from a shelf. When I looked at the man, his eyes were filled with horror. I laughed as I dipped the needle in the poison and stuck it into his arm. This poison could kill you in 30 minutes, I said. I calmly watched as the poison slowly got into his cells and started killing them before it got into his blood vessels using my inner vision on his arm. But I made 2 chakra strings before it could spread any further. The first one went through his skin and tied off the blood vessel below the forearm, stopping all blood flow. The second one was tied around his elbow. He was poisoned all the way down to his elbow in just 30 minutes, and it looked dark purple. I put all of my attention on his arm and the poison inside it. Let's take it off, shall we? I got as close as I could to his arm with all 10 fingers. 10 chakra strings appeared and then split into 3 more. They went into his arm and made a web inside it. One thing about chakra was that it could be both real and unreal at the same time. I was using this ability in a way that no one else has until now. The strings went through his arm and started to hold the poison. They moved around like snakes. Over time, they were able to hold all of the poisoned blood and the poison itself. I pulled all of the strings off of his arm. They were now purple because they were poisonous. I told Haku, give me the water bowl. I put all the poison in the bowl of water. Then I moved the 2 strings that were stopping his blood flow, and his arm was stable again right away. I looked at the man and laughed in a scary way, saying, lucky bastard. Then I looked at his still beating heart, but before I could fix that, I put my hand near it. Several hundred chakra threads that looked like silk began to heal themselves around it without hurting it. When Neji finally looked at the heart, it was made of pure fine chakra strings, just like the mask I put on Haku. Amazing, he said. I spread it out and said, isn't it? This was just the beginning. Neji said, yes, but Haku-chan looked lost because he couldn't see it without the Byakugan. I said, let's fix him, and Haku was told to melt the ice cube that was holding his body. Putting his flesh above his heart, I made another thin string and a fine embroidery needle. I sewed his flesh together without any problems, and it was fine again. Finally, I linked the chakra string's edge to one of the tenketsu points so it wouldn't spread until he was fully healed. I walked out of the lab and said, let's go. This is enough for today. We'll continue our session tomorrow. What a fascinating thing. Everything could be done by strings, or everything is made from strings, I said as I made a chakra string with my finger. I thought about a physics idea that says the universe is made up of very small strings that vibrate, much smaller than subatomic particles. These basic strings bend, twist, and vibrate, making matter, energy, and many other things possible, such as gravity, electromagnetic fields, and more. That's the idea behind strings. 5 days have passed since I began to use medical ninjutsu in real life. Nothing was getting in the way of everything going smoothly. The big day was today. So excited, Neji ate his food very quickly because he wanted to finish it so badly. Calm down, Neji. The academy isn't leaving, my mom told him in a calm voice. The day he was going to start at the academy was today. As I looked at him, I told him in a whisper, don't be so excited, brother. You will be let down when you get back. He tilted his head toward me and asked, what do you mean by that? Nothing, nothing. So who is going with you? I asked you. My father and uncle are going with me, said he. With a twinkle in my eye, I told my dad, let's make it grand. He asked, what do you mean? I gave him a smile. I asked him, are you ready, brother? He looked at me and said, you don't have to be this dramatic. Of course, I have to. This is, after all, your first day of the academy, and you have to be as intimidating as possible, I said with a grin. People nearby were scared as my father, uncle, and at least 30 other members of the clan walked steadily behind them. Their heavy steps shook the ground and made people jump. They had serious looks on their faces because they were going to send their best child to the academy. He whispered in my ear, this is so embarrassing, as everyone looked at him with awe, envy, and jealousy. This way, brother, I said in a whisper. Haku-chan and Kimimaro were following us closely, but they didn't say anything. The paperwork was already taken care of by his dad. When we got to the academy, people began to point us in the right direction because they saw so many white-eyed people there at once. They were whispering to each other and telling their kids not to mess with Neji. I spoke smugly, if someone picks on you, you can tell your sister. I put my hand on his shoulder. He crossed his arms and said, HMP, it's the other way. You should call me. I told him, you don't have to be so tough, my lovely brother. You don't need to say that in public, he said in a low voice. I leaned in close to him and whispered, so I can say it when we're by ourselves. He huffed and ran inside, getting away from me. I just smiled as I looked at his moving figure fade away. My father said, let's go, and as soon as they heard him, they all left one by one. There was nothing left for us here. Father, I want to go to the park, I told him. He let me go without any problems. Return home before noon, or your mother will be angry. I excitedly said, okay, father, and ran toward the park, with Haku and Kimimaro following behind me. Haku was excited and asked, so what are we going to play today? Are we going to make an ice castle again? And please don't destroy my castle this time. Let's see, there might be something interesting, I told you. The fox asked, when are we going to the academy? Next year, I told him. While we were chatting and laughing at my stupid jokes, I noticed something in an alley that made me raise an eyebrow. A civilian girl with purple hair was picking on another girl. The girl who was being picked on was my pink-haired friend Sakura. As I said, oh ho ho, look Haku-chan. What we have here. The three of us surrounded them and made it impossible for them to get away. Sakura was being picked on, and I had no idea why. But I never pick on other people, do I? Even more scared Sakura got when she saw me. I smiled at her and asked, Sakura, why don't you come play with us? Hey, you. What's with those strange eyes? Are you friends with this big forehead? She asked in a haughty voice, which didn't bother me at all. When I asked her nicely, listen, girl, I give you 5 seconds to get out of my sight, she said, there is nothing like kindness in this world. She said with a smirk to scare us, you think you're some big deal. I'll tell my dad, he'll teach you a lesson. Sigh. Why do people not know what's good for them? I asked Haku-chan, please? He jumped out from behind the girl and put a senbon needle on her neck right away. He spoke in a calm voice, as if scaring little kids was his job. Didn't you hear what Lady Hinata said? You're lucky she's in a good mood, or you won't be able to find your father when you get home. Now run before I count to 5. 1, 2, 3. The girl with tears in her eyes ran away, hiding her tail between her legs, before he could finish. I gave him a big thumbs up because his training was making him do what I wanted. I then turned to Sakura and saw that she was getting more scared. I smiled and put out my hand. Let's go and play. When she finally spoke up, she asked, why did you save me from her? It looked like I didn't understand what she said. When you looked at me funny, I asked, what are you talking about? Didn't I say we were friends? That's my ninja way. I can't leave my friends when they need me. What the fuck is going on here, and why am I talking like this? I had to shake my head. It was her question, ninja way, what is that? She took my hand and stood up. Every ninja must find their way. Ask yourself why you want to become strong and what drives you to surpass your limits. That's what the ninja way is, I said openly. She asked with doubt, but I don't have any, so that means I can't become a ninja. As if I were her best friend, I told her, haha, don't worry about it. You will find out in the end, so don't let this thing get to you. A psychological fact is that when you tell someone not to think about something, they will think about it more and more, even if they are not aware of it. 4 of us walked. She was following me, but all of a sudden Haku asked in a low voice, "Why was she so afraid of you at first?" Well, I actually hit her on the forehead with a snowball, broke her toy, made fun of her, and made her cry. Hee, I said. He said with worry, "She can hear you," as he looked at Sakura's upset face. I forgot about it. I cried out in shock. I asked Sakura in a sorry voice as I turned around, "Will you forgive me, Sakura, if I made fun of you, hit you with a snowball, and broke your toy in the future?" She looked at me with fear in her eyes because she knew from what I said that I might hit her again, but she said, "I will forgive you." Good, good, I jumped with joy. There was nothing they did but look at me. They didn't matter to me. I grabbed her hand and dragged her to the park like a best friend. I told her, "You're not that bad." Since she was a child with an inferiority complex, even a small amount of praise made her smile. She asked, "Do you really think that way?" She still wasn't sure if I was telling her the truth. I said, "Of course," and then I went outside to play in the snow. I smiled and hit her on the forehead again with a snowball. I could see that she was crying. As a joke, I asked, "You said you'd forgive me if I hit you, right?" When I stood still, I told her, "Look, I'm here. You can hit me." But she didn't. With sadness in my heart, I walked toward her. Without a doubt, I would have hit her back if she had hit me. I am really sorry for this time and last time. You know I don't know how to make friends, so I just tried to show you I am good at throwing snowballs, but I think you don't like that. So from now on, I won't throw snowballs at you," I quietly said, which clearly moved her. I am being so nice to her after all. No, you are really good at throwing. Actually, from the start, I wanted to be like you. You're amazing. You didn't fear any of us. Do as you please, and you are beautiful and powerful, she said at the end. What? When did I start to look up to her? This time I was really confused by this weird girl with pink hair. There was an unintentional smile on my face. "Why are you smiling like this?" she asked me as she looked at me. "That means we are friends now, right?" I asked you. She said, "Yes," and nodded. In a mysterious voice, I said, "Haha, good. Now let me show you something amazing." I then walked over to the tree and began walking on its trunk as if I were on the ground. If I turned her over, I could see stars in her eyes. "How do you like it?" "Amazing, isn't it?" She gave a chicken-like nod. "Yes, Hinata, you're amazing." When I got back to the ground, I asked, "Do you want to learn it?" She asked, "Can you really teach me?" I laughed and said, "If you become my best friend, I can teach you many things, like this." Suddenly, a small water ball appeared in my hand. It was like light speed when she said, "Okay, then let's become best friends." With a smile, I told her, "From now on, you're my best friend. But remember, Sakura, you can't tell anyone that I am your best friend. You know I am the future leader of the most powerful clan in the village, and when people find out that you're my friend, they will think badly of you, that you wanted to become friends with me for some ulterior motives," I said worriedly. She said, "Okay, I get it." I rubbed her shoulder and told her, "You're such a good girl." When I praised Sakura, she smiled happily. Why do kids want praise so much? I thought. So I showed her how to control her chakras and how to do the tree climbing and leaf sticking exercises. "Let's go home, Sakura. My mother will scold me if I get home late," I said when it was noon. She asked, "When are we going to meet again?" I told him, "Soon, my friend, very soon." I was in a good mood as I walked home. When I talked to Sakura, I learned that she was a really nice kid. There's no way she would tell her parents if I became friends with her and picked on her for fun. What a nice girl. She's going to be on my Naruto team, and I can't let her be a jerk to him. I am keeping him safe from the mental and emotional pain she is going to cause him. Naruto, I work so hard to keep you safe. I hope that you will kindly reward me again. Haku-chan said, "You look very happy now that you've met that girl." Hee, Haku-chan. Can't I really be her friend? I asked with a small laugh. He said with a worried look, "I don't say things like this." I began to walk backward while spinning on my heel. I smiled and looked at him. He made cute faces when I teased him. Do you also want to play with her, or do you start to like her? Tell me, Haku-chan. He quickly looked down and shook his head. What are you talking about, Hinata? I told him, oh, if you want to play with her, I can bring her to our house. I know I sound awful. Hinata, stop making fun of me. I can't play with her without your permission. He told her what he really felt. When I heard him, my smile got even bigger. I liked his answer a lot. Then how about it? I gave you permission. Will you then like her? It was so cute how he looked like he didn't know how to answer me and looked innocent and upset. After telling me, I won't forgive you if you tease me anymore, he quickly ran away, leaving Kimimaru and me alone. Come here, Haku-chan. Don't leave us behind. I laughed and ran after them. We soon got to the clan. They both went home, and I walked toward mine. I turned on my stealth mode and walked up to my house slowly, hoping to catch my parents doing something wrong. I wish I had caught them in the act. It would be funny to see how they react and explain themselves. I jumped into the kitchen, opened the window without making a sound, and walked to their room. I just hoped that their Byakugan wasn't turned on at this moment. I walked quickly, like a cat, and soon I was in their room. My heart was beating fast. Let's hope I find something good. A little crack in the door let me see what was inside. That was a letdown. She was sitting on the chair by herself and enjoying the soft light from the window. Sweetie, come in. I know you've been watching me for a while, she said. I let her catch me in the act. I ran up to her, laughed happily, and jumped into her lap, facing her. I said, I wanted to surprise you, Mommy. How did you know I was watching you? The girl laughed and said, silly girl, did you forget that I have the same eyes as you? HMPH, I don't forget about it. I just don't remember it this time, I said with a pout as I crossed my arms and turned away. She kissed my cheeks and said, okay, don't be like this. Tell me what you did in the park. I made a friend, Mommy. She's really nice. I told her with joy about Sakura. She looked at me with doubt because she didn't believe me after the last trick my best friends and I pulled. Don't look at me. I swear this time it's real, I told her. She believed me because of my genuine smile and confident voice. I believe you, honey. It's great that you're making friends. Tell me more about her, she said as I began to ramble. She looked at me and said, I see. When are you going to invite her to our house? I turned my head to look at her face instead of her big breasts and asked, can I? Of course, honey, you can. I happily told my mom, okay, I'll invite her the next time we get together. Putting my head down, I looked at her belly and poked it a little with my finger. When is the baby coming out, Mommy? You brat, why are you so excited? I told you this morning it will take 8 months. I smiled and raised my head. Did I ask? I forgot about it, hee. She was going to say something, but all she did was smile at me. Hey, Mommy, I wanted to ask you something. She looked at me and asked, what is it, baby? Did the milk still come out of them? I asked with both hands raised. With my tiny demon hands, I squeezed her soft breasts. She let out a surprised yelp, and when she looked down, I was poking her breasts with a curious look on my face. The woman just looked at me, and I didn't move. Then she gently grabbed my hands and brought them down. No, honey, the milk didn't come out, she told me calmly. But when this little baby is born, the milk will come out. Can I drink it then? I asked with joy. She skillfully avoided answering my question by saying, of course, honey, you can. But how's your training going? I began to tell her about my training because I was an honest child, and she was happy to hear it. I talked to her for hours while sitting in her lap. Neji is coming soon. I need to go see him, I told her as I got off her lap and left the room. As I was leaving, I bowed my head and said, I love you, Mommy. Then I laughed and ran out of the house. Her sweet voice could be heard in the house. I love you too, sweetie. Don't run too fast in the house. As I waited for my brother at the clan gates, I was calm. Of course, I was working on my inner vision by watching how my little brain worked. My goal to keep an eye on the brain's neurons is still unfinished, but I still have a few months to finish it. Soon, Neji showed up in front of me. Were you waiting for me? He asked, smiling when he saw that I was. When he said, yes, "Brother. Now tell me, how was your day at the academy?" I grabbed his hand and dragged him to the training ground. His face showed disappointment when he heard what I said. It was boring. The Hokage gave his speech, which I ignored as you asked me to do, and the children were pathetic. They didn't even know how to hold a kunai, and a weirdo with a bowl cut, wearing a green jumpsuit, pressed me to fight him. Neji began to complain. I asked, "Then what did you do?" He smiled and said, "I one-shot him, and I didn't see him in class for many hours." "That's my brother," I told him and slapped their shoulder. "And the book didn't teach us how to fight. It just talked about how great the Hokages were," he complained. "See, what I told you. You will be disappointed," I stated. He said, "That's a waste of my time." Hee, brother, I have an idea." He asked, "What is it?" "You can use the academy as your sleeping place, and at night, we can train," I added. He got very excited when he heard what I said and said, "You're a genius, sis. Hey, what about your medical ninjutsu? You practiced it at night. Wouldn't that disturb it?" He asked me. "I can practice it from morning to noon. If I can't preserve time for my brother, wouldn't that make me a bad sister?" "And I don't want to be a bad sister," I said, and my brother was beaming. People who make excuses for their family are only sad. A man was held down in a dark room that seemed dangerous. Each of his limbs was chained together. Even though his eyes didn't show any feelings, he was really scared if someone could see what was going on inside them. Two kids, one with blank eyes and the other with a mean grin, stood on either side of the operating table and looked at him. "Did I see fear in your eyes? I thought with his training methods your emotions had been dead." Hinata smiled and told Haku to pass her a vial of poison. "Hee, but you're a lucky jerk to be chosen by me. At least here, you're being put to better use," she said. Haku looked at the man and had to kill the person who had tried to kill her. He carefully gave her the vial of poison after taking it from him. He was getting better every day at medical ninjutsu that she taught him. His fighting and killing skills were getting so much better, and having a living dummy at his disposal helped a lot. She dipped the needle in the poison and stuck it in his shoulder. "In 10 minutes, you will be unconscious. This poison is very strong. Try to resist it, lucky bastard." "Lady Hinata, why do you always call him that?" Haku asked her after a moment of thought. I just want to make fun of his bad luck," she said. "I see," he said with a nod. He then watched the man's reaction and wrote it down in his diary. The man began to lose consciousness after 10 minutes. With her Byakugan turned on, Hinata looked closely at the chemical reactions going on in his brain. In a strange turn of events, it turned out that there was no poison at all. The man fell asleep after drinking just water and thought he was poisoned. "See, Haku-chan, the human brain could produce things like these. If you start to believe in something, your brain will try to accomplish that thing." The man did very well on a psychological test. Haku nodded, looking like a kind student. About 1 month had passed since their last fight. He trained with Kimimaro day and night after that and learned from her. He had gotten better at taijutsu, but not so much at what his Kekkei Genkai dealt with. He could freeze buckets of water and make water balls with his hands, but he still couldn't use the full power of his Kekkei Genkai, which let him kill tens of men with a wave of his hand. How could he help her if he couldn't do that? He looked at her while he thought. He wanted to help her as much as possible. That was the only reason he exists. She asked, "Did you want to ask something, Haku-chan?" As if she could tell he was having a hard time inside. He looked with surprise in his eyes. He thought she knew what he wanted to ask like a god from the way she spoke. He thought, "Just like the first time I saw you. I want to feel the same power I felt the first time I awakened Ice Release," he honestly said after stuttering for a moment. Hinata looked into his steady eyes and then nodded to herself. She said with a small smile, "I see. Tonight, you will feel the same power, Haku-chan." When he saw her smile, he was both happy and a little scared. "See you on the practice field," she told him before leaving the room. "I promise not to let you down," he said as he clenched his fist and walked to his room. "I need to get stronger quickly, because Kimimaro and Neji are next on the list. I don't want that to happen because if I don't get strong, I won't be able to help her." He left with a small smile on his face as he thought about her. He showed up at night at the training ground where Neji and Hinata trained every day. At this point, they both looked worn out and their clothes were dirty. Her brother asked her, "Did something interesting happen at the academy?" "Nothing, same as usual." "But as you told me, I just sleep there," he said. He would wake up from a short nap in the morning, go to the academy, and sleep for most of the day there. He would get the best grades in every subject, making his classmates envious that he could get first place without doing anything. His fame as a genius went through the roof because of this. When they got home, he and his sister worked out like crazy until they were too tired to move. "Big brother, do you want to see how a person gets drawn in the water?" she asked me. He asked her, "What are you doing now, sis?" She stated, "You will find out soon," and then laid down until two boys arrived. Four of them stood in front of a big, deep pond in the corner of the practice field. "You have to freeze it, Haku-chan," she said in a way that was too calm for her. That was a silly thing for Haku to say. "It's so big and deep, I don't have that much chakra to freeze it," she said. He looked at the water and thought, "That's not possible." Everyone could hear her whisper, "I see, so you're going against what I said." He freaked out when he heard her words of dissatisfaction. Seeing her upset with him made him feel afraid. He said in a panic, "I don't dare," but Hinata put up her hand and stopped him. "Kimimaro, tie his hands and legs together and throw him in the water," she said, her face blank with anger. When Haku said, "Yes," Kimimaro started to tie him up without any hesitation or compassion, even though Haku was struggling and begging her not to. He said, "Please, Lady Hinata, I will do it now," and he was about to run to the pond to freeze it. She said, "You had your chance," but she didn't look at him. Kimimaro heard her and nodded. "Throw him," she said. He made sure he was properly tied down and then threw him into the cold water. Splash. Haku's face got hit by the cold water, and he slowly began to sink into it. The last thing he saw was her sad face, which was looking at him. He didn't breathe out because the water was too cold for him. It hurt her more. I said, "No, I don't want to die." He moved his body like a fish to get to the surface, but it was hard. He made it to the surface by holding his breath and struggling with his body. He turned to look at Hinata, who was standing above the water and seemed to be seeing right into his soul. "If you don't freeze this pond, then forget that I have ever met you," she said. When he heard what she said, it hurt his heart. "Please don't say it like this." He really did not want this to happen. After that, someone pushed him on the shoulder, and he fell. He got to the bottom of the pond quickly, and all that was left was darkness. "Am I going to die this way?" he thought. He tried to freeze the water, but couldn't because his hands were tied. Even so, a small amount of water quickly turned into ice and rushed up. "This doesn't work," they said. He worked extra hard, but nothing changed. Things began to get dark. Haku felt what it was like to really be sad about losing everything for the first time. He didn't want to give up, though. He had finally found his real home, but it was leaving him. This will not happen again. He saw the water. "I will destroy this thing if it stands in the way of me and her." Hinata looked up at Haku with 10 strings floating around her fingers. She was ready to save him at any time. Neji yelled from the edge of the pond, "Sister, you should save him. He's dying." Her calm answer was, "It's not the right time, brother." It was only a matter of seconds before Haku died. The energy of his chakra began to flow from his hands into the pond, cooling it down. "Haha, that's what I call reawakening." She laughed and jumped quickly out of the cold water. On the surface of the water, razor-sharp spikes appeared, ready to kill anyone who got too close. Haku's chakra was almost gone at the bottom of the pond. He was still alive thanks to his strong will. He finally knew how strong his ice release really was. With one last push, he sped through the frozen water and felt like he was one with the ice. "I hope she likes me." He saw a figure appear next to him before he closed his eyes, and he knew who it was. While giving a small smile, he passed out. Hinata said, "Let's go," picked up the unconscious boy, and left the scene. After 4 hours. Haku was still asleep when Hinata sat down next to his bed. She had her hands on his hand and was slowly sending her chakra to him. He slowly opened his dark brown eyes when he felt the warmth. The mask on his face was gone because it didn't have enough chakra to stay on. The first thing he saw was her worried face as she looked at him. She felt bad and said, "I'm sorry, Haku-chan." Seeing how much she cared about him warmed his heart. He said in a low voice, "You don't have to say sorry. I asked for it. I'm truly sorry, even if you don't ask for it." "I won't do it again," she said with a warm smile. He kept quiet for a moment and then looked at her. That's what he was most worried about. "Are you still disappointed in me?" She told him. "No, Haku-chan. You made me feel proud." He smiled and asked, "Really?" "Yes," she told him, "but don't be so tough around me." She then grabbed his hand tightly. He bowed his head and spoke with trembling lips. "I felt scared down there. I wasn't sure I could make it." Hinata listened to him quietly and let him talk about how he felt. He told her, "Please don't do this to me again. I don't want to die. I can't imagine losing you." It made him cry. She spoke softly while hugging him and patting his back. "You are not dying, and I won't do this again. Promise me." "I promise." That trick I played on Haku-chan 6 months ago. Since then, he has a lot more control over his ice release. He can now use the water in the air to make ice shards and big icicles. Everything I've been training for has been done slowly and without any breaks. This includes my medical ninjutsu, chakra control, elemental control, the ability to see inside and outside of myself, and finally, my favorite, shinjutsu. It's no longer winter. It's now spring. I looked out at the calm, still pond in front of me. The warm sunlight was shining on the green grass. I picked up a pebble and threw it into the pond, which made the water ripple and form waves. When the water in the pond stopped moving, I threw another pebble into it and watched as it made more waves with my Byakugan turned on. Ren came out of the shadows and asked, "Lady Hinata, you keep doing the same thing over and over. Are you that bored?" "Ren, have you ever thought about how X-ray vision works?" I asked after calmly watching the ripples. "It's our innate ability." "That's what I always thought," he said. "Ren, you're always so simple-minded. Look at these waves. There are different kinds of waves. Some need a medium to pass through, like these water waves, and some don't need any medium at all, like electromagnetic waves." I began to lecture him, but he had no idea what I was talking about. "I don't know about these things," he stated. I told her with a laugh, "You should read some books. It's good for your brain." We could read together, but he wouldn't learn anything this advanced in any book I gave him. He was confused and asked, "And what does it have to do with our X-ray vision?" "I will tell you that later, but first, tell me what makes our eyes so different that we can see through things," he replied. "It's a Kekkei Genkei," he said. His answer made me want to punch him in the face. With a sigh, I said, "No, Ren, that's not what I want to ask you. Let me explain to you. The sun is our light source. When the light particles hit an object or person, they reflect back and hit our eyes, creating the image of that person or object. That's how a normal human eye works." Ren nodded at me, and I went on. "Then why can we see objects that don't reflect light onto our eyes, or in simple terms, objects behind walls or other obstacles?" Ren seemed confused, but he didn't know what to say, so he asked, "Now I really want to know. Please continue, Lady Hinata." The answer is simple. Our Byakugan generates a set of waves with different wavelengths and frequencies according to our wishes. When we want to see through something, we unknowingly produce X-rays, more powerful than visible light. When the X-rays pass through an object with the help of our brain and eyes, we can determine the shape of objects, I said to him. "I see. That's how our eyes work," Ren said, happy to learn something new. "But the X-rays we produce are so weak, almost negligible compared to what they can truly do. If they were used to their full potential, they could erase living organisms in an instant." I told him how powerful the rays are. Ren asked, "Can our eyes do that too?" As he was sweating. Even though I just smiled and said, "No, they couldn't," I let him know how disappointed I was. I picked up a stone in my hand and said, "But these aren't the only kinds of waves our eyes could make." When I activated my Byakugan, a lot of chakra rushed toward my eyes and turned into controlled, powerful, and accurate shockwaves that hit the stone in my palm. As soon as the wind hit, the stone was gone. Its pieces flew away, leaving my palm empty. Ren's face showed shock, confusion, awe, and fear all at the same time. I told him with a smirk, "See, this was another use of waves." "Why, you actually succeeded," he said, shocked. Nah, it's not even close. It might take 5 more years. Ren, what did you learn today? To sum up, Byakugan is a tool that makes different kinds of waves, nothing else. That's what I think after using Byakugan for over 5 years. So the stronger and larger in quantity you produce X-rays, the farther and clearer you could see, Ren said. Exactly, and stop talking nonsense. It's hard to understand, I said with a laugh. He laughed and said, it's hard to put into words what you told me. Ren walked after me as I got up and walked toward the house. He said, Lady Hinata, when are we going to pay the next visit to grave living Renmara? Laughs. I asked, is it already the next month? I went to the cemetery once a month to honor the dead and the living Hyugas. I still find it funny to show respect to a living person. Hee. The sins I am committing are truly horrible. Isomu Uchiha trusted me, and I learned that he had a son who was about 2 years old. I will grab his eyes and those of his son when the Uchiha massacre starts. Hee. If I ask him in the right way, he'll give them to me from his own mind. Lady Hinata, the air around you is becoming dark. Are you thinking something wicked? Ren asked her. Ren, I was just thinking about how to take care of another orphan. Is that bad in your eyes? That was very mean of you, I told my bodyguard, as if I was upset with him. Lady Hinata, stop being sarcastic. I am not Haku. Fine, you win. I lose, I moaned as I walked home, annoyed at how rude my goons were being. Ren was told to go to the lab and stop the man who was already dead from dying. When I saw my mom's swollen belly, I smiled sweetly and asked her, Mommy, when will the baby come out? You impatient brat, how many times do I have to tell you that it will take another month? She said, but the smile on her face showed that she was happy. That means I have about 2 months? I hope that jerk was lucky enough to live that long. Can I help? I asked as I looked at the baby clothes she was making. She began to show me how to weave clothes, which is what she does all day. Of course, baby, but be careful with the needles. They are sharp, she said. I began to pay attention to what she was saying by telling myself, don't worry, Mommy. I'm very good at handling needles and I am a master weaver. I need to make Naruto-kun a new scarf because the old one is probably worn out. Should I make all new clothes? Okay, let's do this. When I think about Naruto, I've only seen him 8 times in the past 6 months. Because too much sugar isn't good for health, I didn't see him very often. And in a few more months, I'll see him every day at the academy. It had been 15 days, and nothing important had happened. The flowers were beautiful and yellow. They were in the park and had grown under a big tree. A voice asked me, Hinata, what are you doing under that tree? I turned my head to look. My best friend had pink hair, and her big green eyes were looking right at me. Ra. Come here, let's watch the flowers. Coming. After a short run, she sat down next to me and looked at the flowers. She was interested and asked, why are you looking at the flowers? I don't know, but I like to see beautiful things, and seeing them how they bloomed gives me pleasure. Haha, you are talking weird again, Hinata. But that aside, look, I brought lunch. Let's eat. I have prepared it myself, she stated. I had met her a lot of times in the last 6 months to play and teach her some things. I was her friend, but she hadn't told anyone. I knew that playing in the park would be seen. I still let her think she was being sneaky. You're a really good cook, Sakura. This food is amazing, I said as I took a bite. Really? I'm glad you like it, she said, smiling as she heard my praise. We ate all of the food very quickly. Then I started to smile as I looked at her back. Why don't you spend a night at my home tonight? What? She asked in shock. She felt calmed when I put my hand on her shoulder and said, if you're worried about your parents, I'll send someone to tell them. Before she could say anything, I told Ritsu to tell her parents, and he showed up in the blink of an eye. Yes, Lady Hinata, he replied with a bow, and as quickly as he had come, he was gone, leaving no trace. She asked, who? Who was he? With a proud smile, I said, my father has given me 2 bodyguards. They go wherever I go, and protect me so no one could touch me. And now you're with me, so you're also safe. She said, I didn't know that. I smiled as I grabbed her hand and led her to my clan. Now see, I'm amazing, and I have amazing things to show you in my room. Being a child, she asked, really, what amazing things do you have? As I thought to myself, a living core wanna see, I said, you will see when we reach. We talked about random things with her soon after we got to the clan gates. It was already getting dark when we got home, and it would soon be night. As soon as we walked into the clan, tens of eyes were on little Sakura, making her feel like she had just walked into a pack of big, bad wolves. It made the poor girl shiver when I said, you're going to love this, Ra. With a creepy laugh. I laughed and patted her on the shoulder as I saw her pale face. I was just kidding. They aren't used to seeing someone in the clan compound, I said. Everyone went back to how they were before I waved my hand. She asked him, why do you always do this to me? After telling her, because you are too cute to tease, I teased her some more until I got home. I excitedly told my mom, look, mommy. I brought my friend home. To show how happy I was. My mom looked at Sakura first, then at me, and asked, what is your name, child? With a smile. Sakura, she said as she moved her fingers around and looked at the ground. This seems a little familiar, I thought as I looked at her shy face. Did my daughter bully you? You can tell me, she said. She quickly replied, no, she is very nice to me. I smiled smugly at my mom as I looked at her. See, I have a friend. We are playing in the room, so don't disturb us, okay, mommy? Okay. I will ask someone to send food to your room, she stated. No, I will do it myself. I quickly made some snacks while telling Sakura to go to the last room of the house. As Sakura walked toward the room, she heard a voice ask, hey, who are you, and where do you think you're going? This stopped her in her tracks. As Neji came out of the hallway, he looked at Sakura with cold eyes that made her cringe. Wait a minute, you're from that group of maggots. What are you doing here? He asked as he walked slowly toward her. In fear, Sakura stepped back a bit. She began to think that coming here in the first place was a bad idea. I asked him, big brother, when did you start scaring little girls? It's creepy, as I came up behind him with a sandwich plate. Creepy, you say? I didn't come close to you, he said. Brother, your words hurt me, I said with a hurt look on my face. He let out a sigh and asked, forget it. Why is she here? I just wanted to play with her, brother, I told him, and he saw the glint in my eyes. I see, he said to Sakura, and then he smiled and walked away. We weren't talking to her, but she looked at his smirk and asked, why did he smile like that? As I walked to my room, I pretended not to know what was being said. I don't know what you're talking about. Let's go to my room. As soon as I got to my room, I opened the door and told her, go inside. She walked right in without a second thought, and I closed the door behind her with a truly evil smile. Sakura looked at the broken mirrors, books, toys that were still hanging from a thread, and portraits that were hanging on the walls. When you look into their eyes, they seem to hypnotize you. This place was really made for someone like me to stay, with a bed in the corner and a lamp next to it. This is your room, she asked shakily, not liking the way it made her feel. While putting my hands on her shoulders, I whispered something evil into her ears. Hee, don't you like it, Ra? She said, you're scaring me, Hinata, and she jumped away. Really, I said in a whisper, not letting go. Crack. Right in front of her eyes, a toy broke into many pieces as it fell to the ground. She screamed in fear, and jumped away, landing on her behind. Stop it, Hinata, she begged. I smiled at her and said, sorry about that, Sakura. I thought you would like it. I was laughing so hard I could barely breathe after giving her a heart attack. All of a sudden, the bad vibes left the room. See, it's fine, right? I agreed with her. Yes, it's good now, she said. She pulled a book off the shelf and turned on the lamp. Let's read a book, I said. We turned off the lights and put the lamp on the floor so that its flame would flicker every once in a while. Sakura and I then sat down in front of it with the book and snacks in front of us. She looked at the first page of the book and said, this one's looks pricey. I lied through my teeth and said, you're going to love this. I saved it for this moment. I also haven't read this. This book was written by the Honorable Me. She said, really, let's start, and she did. People in this book fall in love with each other and go through a lot of hard times along the way. She looked at Sakura and said, I love corrupting a pure soul so much, damn this guilty pleasure. At one point in the story, the man and woman were trapped in a hut while lightning and thunder struck outside and cold winds blew over them. Sakura was so into the story that she didn't notice that her cheeks were bright red. After that, they slid closer together and hugged, giving each other the warmth they needed on this cold night. Her blue eyes became cloudy as her body felt unknown desires. He too saw the same fire in her eyes. Their bodies moved on their own, and they kissed, enjoying the juicy taste of each other. She read. Then she turned the page to see what was on the next one. No words were there, which broke her heart. She yelled at me, what? Where is the next part? I want to know what happened next. I saw her red face and thought, this girl has some pretty bad thoughts. I don't know. I just accidentally found this book, I replied. But why are you so eager to find out what happened to them? Are you thinking about something, Sakura? I leaned in close and looked her in the eyes. Did she know these things? Something was wrong because I could tell by the look in her eyes. Was she interested in hearing the next part of the story? Does she think that she is changing me? I didn't understand. Perhaps I'm wrong. When she felt my eyes on her, she said, snacks are over. I asked, I see. Do you want more? She yawned and said, no, I'm full. I told her, if you're tired, let's end here, and she agreed. I looked at her some more and then thought, I was wrong. She's a curious kid. She said, let's sleep. It's 12 o'clock at night, and then she got into bed and fell asleep right away. I sent Sakura home with Ritsu because I can't put her safety at risk. She wants to come again, I said with a laugh, remembering how excited she was. Soon, the days went by, and I trained as usual. And 15 days went by in the blink of an eye. We were in front of a door with my dad, Neji, my uncle, and myself. My dad was scared and was walking around us with sweat on his forehead. My uncle told him, calm down, brother. Everything will be okay. Crack. When the door opened, an old woman with a smile came in. She had helped Neji and me when we were hurt during training. Congratulations, clan head. Both mother and baby are fine, she told us. It made my dad feel better, and he ran into the room. As soon as everyone went inside, I took a few steady steps toward my mom. I put my hands on hers and asked, are you okay, mommy? She said, I'm fine, baby, with a weak smile. I asked, can I see the baby? As I looked at my dad's big smile. Of course, princess, here. I put up both hands and held the baby in my cradle. A frown soon showed up on my face as I looked at the baby. In the end, the sperm didn't win the race. It wasn't Hanabi that I was holding. It's A. As I frowned and held the bundle that held the two newborn twins, I said, it's twins. Because I got in the way, this was the first big change that happened. But as soon as I looked at the two, my frown turned into a small smile. One had brown hair, like the Hanabi I knew, and the other had dark blue hair like my mother and me. They looked around with wide eyes, but they didn't know what was going on. Their faces were cute and adorable. I quickly brought them to my mom and said, haha, look at them, they're so cute. But as soon as I put them next to her, their faces changed. WUUUUHNNAAAWUUU. They screamed, and they both started to cry at the same time. I think they didn't want to get away from you, my mom whispered as she gently picked them up and swung them around in her sweet voice. Hee hee, good, I'm feeling really happy. Give them to me. I laughed and tried to grab them from her. As I approached her with my hand outstretched, my mother pulled them even closer to her. See, they even stopped crying after hearing me, I said. I am not giving them to you, brat. Let me first see them properly and feed them, then you can have them. I shouldn't have given them to you in the first place, I said as I stood next to Neji. He put his hand on my shoulder to make me feel better. When I looked at him, I asked myself, are you also making fun of me? He just gave me a calm nod like the older brother he was. You betrayed your brother. My dad asked, so what should we call them? My mom looked at the girl with brown hair and said, Hanabi, let's name her Hanabi. Shouldn't I have given her a name? I thought. My mom looked at me and said, don't make that face, baby. You can name the other one. I ran quickly and grabbed the girl with blue hair, lifting her up to the sky. As my Byakugan charged and pierced her soul, I spoke in a deep and seductive voice. You will be the strongest of us. As a noble, I will name you Arya Hyuga. Everyone in the room looked at me with faces that were hard to read. I didn't care about them. I put her gently in my mom's arms and asked, how do you like it? My dad said, it's beautiful. Haha, I am happy that you like it. Soon after, the elders came into the room, just like they did when I was born. After Elder Kazuya and the others blessed Hiyashi, he said, congratulations, you have normal children this time. In the main family, things were not as they should have been because of my presence. The relationships were very strong. Hee, thanks for the blessings, my dad replied with a smile. My mom and dad had beautiful, bright smiles on their faces, and their eyes were filled with joy. They were truly happy. Before I closed my eyes, I looked at them. Neji was interested and asked, hey, sis, why do you spend most of your time in the lab? Did you feel lonely without your sister? I asked you. I was just curious. 5 days have passed since the twins were born, and it is now night. We were done with our taijutsu training for the day. When the 3 pieces of chakra metal were pulled out, they changed into a staff and then a bow without a string with the sound of another click. It was me again, this time on a tree. I smiled and said, let's raise the stakes, shall we? 3 times a week, we practiced our little death matches. This training has been going on for 8 months now, and the results were very good. Of course, sis. I was just waiting for this moment. He turned on his Byakugan and his vision was limited to 10 meters. He then sent out a thin membrane of chakra in the shape of a sphere and kept it there. Swish. He was hit by an arrow that flew very quickly. When Neji saw the attack coming, he quickly raised his 2 chakra-covered fingers and deflected the arrow just a bit. He was grinning. Don't get cocky, brother, I told him. Then I disappeared and came back somewhere else. Swish swish swish. There was 1 arrow at his heart and 2 at his blind spot, which I shot quickly. When the first one came into view, he pushed with his palm, and a burst of compressed air shot out of his hand and hit the arrow, killing it. But he couldn't see the 2 arrows that were aimed at his blind spot until they went through the thin membrane. Once he felt them, I wasn't going to let him get away so easily. I flicked my fingers to move the strings that were attached to the arrows. The arrows stayed in his blind spot, and before he could do anything, they were just inches from his back and ready to pierce him. But he was so good at following his instincts that when he felt threatened, he moved away quickly by flickering his body. His heart beat faster, and he started to sweat on his forehead. With a smile on my face, I put another arrow on the string. Brother, this is going to hurt. There were flashes of blue lightning on the bottom of the arrow that I was holding. Swish. With a flash of lightning chakra, the arrow appeared right in front of Neji's eyes. Before he could react, the arrow had another burst that used all the remaining lightning to make it even faster than it was before. Wah? He couldn't say anything because the arrow had already hit him in the shoulder and knocked him out. Arg. He was in a lot of pain, but before he could scream, another arrow went through his shoulder. Then, another arrow went through his chest but missed his lungs and ribs. The grass turned red from green. I showed up in front of my brother, who was lying on the ground with 3 bloody arrows going through him. He held back his pain as he looked at me. I spoke to him. If I were an enemy, you would have died, brother. Or do you think you're the main character of some cliché story, and a halo is protecting you? Think, brother, think. He said, no, I'm not, and then he looked at me. I will train harder. I smiled at him and helped him stand up. Yes, that's it, brother. I came up behind him and pulled the arrows out of his body. This is going to hurt a bit, the man said. When I put the tip of my finger on his wound, many chakra threads that looked like silk went into it, filling the space and healing his flesh. A cutting sound let me connect the string's tip to his nearby tenketsu point. I did the same thing to his other wounds. This is what I had learned over many years of training. The only person who could use this special medical ninjutsu that I had made was a Byakugan user with very good chakra control. Are you okay? I asked. That's funny, better than a big cut, he said in jest. That's good. Let's end here. He gave me a nod and turned to go home. Dash dash. Cough. My mom coughed up blood. She asked with a weak smile. Am I going to die? No, we will find a way to heal you. My dad told her firmly while holding her hand. But the doctor told me I don't have much time left, she said, looking at the twins who were sound asleep. My dad was scared and asked, did you tell Hinata? I don't want to make her sad seeing me like this. From behind the wall, I could hear what they were saying. I thought her condition would be better after having 2 kids, but it was worse than I thought. I think she only had 10 days left, I said. I don't want to die. I want to see my children grow. Want to play with them, eat with them, and many more things. The clan wasn't as happy as it used to be. There was always a sad vibe around the compound, like dark clouds had covered the sun. The medics in the clan couldn't help the head of the clan's wife get better. A lot of different village doctors came and went, but her condition didn't change. In fact, it got worse every day. But information about her stayed secret. Not even her doctor was allowed to share it. To hide the truth, it was said to check on the babies. They were very understanding, since they had families to feed back home. The village's government was dishonest, and those in charge were vying for positions of power. They wouldn't think twice about hitting a strong clan to try to weaken it. One of them wanted to be the Hokage, and his name was Danzo Shimura. He even tried to kill Hiruzen, his boyfriend, one time. But they were so close that the weak Hokage had forgiven him, letting a snake grow right under his nose and giving him permission to do bad things like stealing children from orphanages or wiping out whole clans. He said, oh well, it was for the best of Konoha, so it was okay. It wouldn't surprise me if someone tried to take my 2 cute little dolls, I said. I looked at the twins sleeping peacefully in my arms. Something like what happened in Kumo could happen again. People who know how to break into the village can do it twice as easily as they did the first time. I hadn't decided yet what to think about the Raikage's attempt to kidnap me. Lol, I'm still too young, and the Raikage isn't going to die anytime soon. If he tries to do something again, I wouldn't mind doing to Kumo what Obito and Zetsu did to Kiri. The hospital room was empty since it was after midnight. I smiled as I stroked the baby's cheeks while they slept. My mom woke up and asked me, "Ah, Hinata, are you still awake, baby?" I gave her a weak grunt. I said, "Yes," and I looked back at Hanabi and Arya. With worry in her eyes, she told him, "You should sleep. You've been sitting here for hours. It's not good for your health." Haha, I always sleep late at night. You shouldn't be worried about me. I always forget that you're a night owl. Haha, she said. I hummed, There was silence. No one spoke, but she could not stand it any longer. You were always very excited about the babies. How do you feel holding them? She asked me. I said, that felt good. They are so cute. I want to see them all the time. She said, I see. Then they are all yours. I smiled and looked at her. Of course, they are mine. You know, I don't have much time left, I told her, and she smiled. I hope they don't notice that I'm not there. Putting the babies to sleep in the crib next to her, I looked into her eyes and told her, you're not leaving until I say you can. I held her hands. Haha, your stubbornness is showing, Hinata, she told me. I am serious. Once more, there was silence. She began to speak with a sigh of defeat. But the doctors say there is no cure for my illness, she said to try to make sense of things. Mom, I don't want you to die. I don't want to be alone, so please be with me. I want to show you a lot of things that will make you proud of me. She was putting on a tough face so I wouldn't see her in this state, but as I talked to her, it slowly broke down. Tears filled her cheeks as the sadness and guilt of not being able to raise her children came out. She got a tighter grip on my hands. I don't want to be apart from you either, but fate is against me. She looked at me as if it were the last time she would ever see her most precious thing. I couldn't do anything, she said. Fate, huh? I change fate. Mom, don't look at me like that. Do you want me to cry? She said, no, I don't want to make you cry, baby, as she cried. Are you sure you believe me? I asked a question that I knew the answer to very well. Of course, honey. Why do you have to ask these kinds of things? I told her, if I don't want you to die, I have to heal you myself. This made her quiet down. I've learned for more than 2 years and practiced for about 8 months. If the doctors can't heal you, it's because they're not very good at what they do. She looked at me and then sighed and said, you Girl, you've always been this mean. You won't let me live if I say no, right? Why? She asked. Yes, Mommy, you know me very well, I told her with a smile. What made her agree so quickly? Perhaps she had no hope left, or she just wanted to die after seeing her daughter's face. Mama, I'm not going to let you die. I told Ren not to let anyone into the room before the scan began. Are you all set, Mom? I told her as I put a piece of cloth over her eyes. You know I can see you with my Byakugan. She laughed nervously. But you're not going to, right? I asked. Yes, do your thing. Here it comes. My Byakugan was turned on with a sudden burst of chakra in my eyes. Everything turned white, black, and gray. There was only one bright thing left. The web of her chakra network, which had 361 small tenketsu points and 8 slightly bigger points. I looked at her blood vessels first. They were weak and could break if her blood pressure got too high or too low. Second, the walls of her heart got weaker, which made it harder for her heart to pump blood for her. Finally, her lungs were lying to her. There was swelling around her windpipe and an infection in her lungs. I see. That's why she's dying. Any stupid mistake could kill her in the end. It was easy to figure out what was wrong with Byakugan. I only had to look at it once to see what was wrong. Let's heal her lungs and windpipe first. I raised my fingers and a very thin chakra scalpel appeared. I put my fingers just below her throat and cut her. Many chakra strings entered her lungs through the tenketsu points on my arm. They split into many folds and filled every space in her lungs. I had to cut off the infected part by hand and then cover it with threads that looked like silk, attaching them to some of her tenketsu points until she was fully healed. I started the process with all of my attention on the task at hand and forgot what time it was. The blood vessels around her heart came next. They felt thin chakra strands swirling around them. This was the hardest part because there were so many blood vessels, thousands of them. Even though some of them were very thin, I was able to get through them. Once I was done with the blood vessels, I moved on to the heart. When I put my hand on her chest, very thin chakra strands began to weave around the walls of her heart, living alongside it. This part was the easiest. Then I slowly and carefully began to pour more and more chakra into the area. The blue strands quickly turned red, making a heart within a heart. Finally, I tied some strings to her tenketsu points to keep it in place forever. This was the last step in the development of my medical ninjutsu. The weapon would be destroyed if someone tried to stab her in the heart. I looked at the mother who was sound asleep and said, "It wouldn't be wrong to say you're the woman with the strongest heart." From the window, I could see that it was still night, or maybe it had been 1 or 2 nights. For the first time, I felt truly chakra exhausted. Just 9 months ago, the most I could do with chakra was make an unbreakable needle. Now I can make a whole hard shell. I yawned and laid down next to her. It might take a few days to fully heal it. I just hope no one wakes me up at that time, because I'm really tired. I looked at her and thought, you will be in great shape, Mommy. Then I cuddled up to her and closed my eyes. I opened my beautiful white eyes and let out a happy yawn. The first thing I noticed was that my chakras were at their highest level again. Growl. While putting my hand on my crying, hungry stomach and saying, "Damn it, I'm hungry," I slowly walked to the bathroom to take a bath first. I saw my thin face in the mirror that was still there. What? How long did I stay out? Instead of looking in the mirror, I took a bath, rubbed the fragrant soap all over my body, and washed my short, neck-length hair. I left the bathroom, put on the red sash around my waist, and grabbed the white kimono. As I walked down the dimly lit hall to the dining table, I thought, I'm almost ready to meet my little fox. Hee hee, it's been a while since I took a dip in the ocean of his cuteness. I laughed to myself. I got to the room where my mom was making breakfast in the end. I quickly scanned her with Byakugan and said, "She is doing fine, better than ever." When she heard my steps, she quickly turned around and asked, "Hinata baby, you finally woke up." I love her motherly smile. "You need to eat. Look, I'm making you a tasty meal." I said, "Yes, Mommy, you should feed me now," while sitting up straight like a princess. "Yes, sweetie, just wait for a minute." "How do you feel now?" I asked as she put the food in front of me. I thought she made the food every day for me. She put me in her lap after picking me up in her arms and sitting on my chair. As if nothing had ever happened, she said. "See, I told you, you will be fine, Mommy," I stated. I still can't believe it. The elders and everyone in the clan were amazed at how far you've come, she told me with pride in her voice. Now the looks of awe and amazement will be 10 times stronger. They'll only make me more cocky. Hee, I laughed to myself. Now say, she said, putting the spoon in front of my mouth. The tasty food made me say, quadruple A, and enjoy it. I sat in her lap with my hands crossed for the next 30 minutes while she fed me with her hands and whispered nice things in my ear. Are you trying to turn me into a diabetic? I asked as I listened to her sweet, loving voice. With a handkerchief over my mouth, she put me on the table like a doll and looked at me. Promise me that you will never show your abilities outside of the clan. It will be bad for you and all of us if someone finds out about it. She began to give me advice with worry. There are many bad and greedy people out there. They will do anything to get your skills. And I did what my mother said like a good child. Yes, she's right. There are a lot of bad people in the world. But what about the devil sitting right in front of you? To reassure her, I followed her and smiled slyly as I said, but I am strong, Mommy. She told me, no, baby, you're not. Do what I say, which made me feel stupid. Okay, Mommy, I'll do what you say. I'll never show someone what I can do. I'm a good girl, I told her. She gently stroked my hair and told me, Hinata is a good girl. She thought I was a sweet little girl. Yes, Mommy, I huffed like a child who got cocky when their parents praised them. Where are the little ones? I asked. They are sleeping in my room, she told him. Why do they sleep all the time? They want to play with sister, right? I moaned as I walked toward my 2 sleeping dolls. When I was about to go into her room, she told me, don't wake them up. It will be hard to put them back to sleep. As soon as I walked into her room and walked up to the crib, I said, wakey wakey, little runts, go play with your kind sister. Even though my mom told me not to, I poked them in the cheeks to wake them up. After opening their eyes and saying, Wuna, they started to cry. Haha, come here, I said, ignoring their cries. I picked them up and began to play with them. Soon, they stopped crying for no reason and started laughing with me. Hee, good little sisters, I laughed as I played with them, moving their little bodies, and poking and scratching them in different places. They fell asleep again, and in 30 minutes, they were sound asleep again. I put them on the bed and wrapped their clothes around them like a cocoon, only showing their faces. Because I didn't want to wake them up, I tied them behind my back and left the room, telling my mother that I was going to train outside. When I walked into the clan compound, many members looked at me in shock and awe and whispered to each other. I walked toward the practice field with my head held high. The 3 boys were fighting, or at least 2 of them were. My brother was being very cocky by keeping his hands in his pockets when the fight started. It was hard to tell how much Haku and Kimimaru had changed in the last 8 months. Sis, you're here, Neji said with a smile as she walked up to me. I told him as a joke, no, I'm her ghost. Soon, the other 2 people showed up. Haku greeted me with his famous smile and closed eyes, and the other person was still shy. Hey, brother, why aren't you at church? Were you absent from class? It made me squint my eyes at him. What classes? They teach you almost nothing but the will of fire, he joked. And, by the way, today is Sunday. He asked me, why did you bring them here? As he looked back at me. Because I feel like it, I said as I walked over to a tree, hammered a kunai into it, and used a rope to hang 2 little dolls from it. Hey, are you going to use them as practice targets? Neji became scared. What? Before I said anything, I gave him a mean grin and said, I hadn't thought about it before, but you gave me this great idea, big brother. I blamed him for it. You can't do that, he said as drops of sweat formed on his forehead. I guess I could do the same thing with them if I could do it with you. My smile got bigger and bigger. I laughed when I saw his confused and scared face. I still love picking on my brother, I said. Brother, I'm joking. I left him with a pat on the shoulder and a smile on my face. Neji let out a sigh of relief and looked at the twins with a smile. Hey Neji, did she really use you as a target? Haku asked in a low voice with a smile, making things worse for him. You know, with that smile on your face, I just want to punch you, Neji said. He got even more angry when Haku just smiled at him. Let's start. After that, the days went by slowly, and before you knew it, 20 more days had passed. I hummed happily as I put together the lunchbox. Are you and your friend going to play? My mom asked me as she helped me with the food. Yes, Mommy, I will be back before evening. She gave me a nod. Are you sure you want to bring them? Do you see those 2 cocoons on my back? She asked. Yes, they won't be hungry until nightfall. You give them food, right? She began to lecture me again. Yes, baby, be careful out there, okay? As I said goodbye to her with, bye, I walked toward the park but disappeared in an alley. In an apartment, the child of prophecy, whose whole fate had been written by one person, raised his hand. A flame appeared above his palm, and as he added more chakra to it, it shrunk and became more focused instead of growing bigger. Naruto said, ouch, it's hot, when he felt a huge amount of heat on his palm. The top layer of his skin was burned, but because he was a fox, it healed quickly. To keep your skin from burning, you could either have complete control over the heat or cover your palm in chakra. Naruto had been practicing his flame jutsu for 8 months and was now a really badass at it. It had been more than 2 years since he met his supposed angel. He learned from her that the angel was sitting on his bed and watching him with a warm smile that he had grown to love. Now put that coin in the flame, Naruto-kun, she urged. Naruto took a coin out of his pocket and threw it into the spear of fire. The coin turned red, began to melt, and fell to the ground. I asked Hinata-chan, how was it? He asked with a proud grin. You're doing very well. Haha, Naruto laughed happily. To his surprise, though, he had become a monster at wind and fire style. Since he had nothing else to do, he trained in his room for 12 to 14 hours a day while Hinata-chan watched over him. It would be like cutting someone with a coin if he put his hand over them. They would be cut into a pile of limbs. Or, if he tried to hide his hand with the flames, he could punch someone right through, melting their body parts. Naruto didn't know how horrible he was, though, because she told him not to use it on people. Hey Hinata-chan, when are you free to meet me? I haven't seen you in over 20 days, he told his angel as he sat next to her. Do you miss me? Why? She asked. Was all he said in response. She touched his face and said, that's so cute. He looked out the window while she was petting him. A real smile appeared on his face as someone knocked on the door. He quickly ran to the window and opened it. Ask Naruto-kun, what were you doing? He quickly shut the window behind me as I asked. Hinata-chan, you're here. I was just telling you about when you're going to come, he told me with a fox-like grin. Oh. How do you know I'm the real one? While sitting on his bed and making room for him to sit next to me, I asked him in an interested way. I know it, and when you come, the other you just vanished, he told me with a smile. I see, I told him, fully understanding what he was going through. Tell me, Naruto-kun, how were your days off? I asked him the same thing, or maybe I should say I asked him what he meant for me to say. You wake me up in the morning. Next, I do flame jutsu for an hour until I get tired, after taking a bath and eating the food. When he talked about his daily activities, he was very excited. But when you encourage me, I start doing it until the night, and after eating, I spar with you, and then I sleep. I was happy to listen to him while putting my chin on my hands. I told Hinata-chan, look at what the Hokage gave me. He quickly pulled the letter out of his pillow and showed it to me. This will get me into the academy, he said. So from next month, you will be going to the academy, I said. Aren't you going too? He asked. He laughed and said, I'll be with you, Naruto. I saw how happy he was when he heard this. Tell me, Naruto, are you happy? Yes, very happy. Hinata-chan, what are those things behind you? He asked as he looked at what was behind me. You want to see them, I said as I quickly picked up my 2 sleeping cubs. Wow. They're little kids. He yelled in surprise, jumped back, and slowly crawled toward me. They are my little sisters, Hanabi and Arya. I told them to introduce him. He said, "Really, they are so small. Lol, would you like to hold them?" I put out my arms to greet him. "May I?" He hesitated and asked. "Don't be shy, here." He awkwardly took them, and his body stiffened as if he was afraid to drop them. He said, "Haha, they are so light." I did nothing but look at him. It was funny. When he felt awkward, the babies in his arms opened their white eyes and stared straight at the unknown animal that looked like a fox. Naruto said, "Look, Hinata-chan. Their eyes look just like yours." The babies learned how to cry quickly and easily, and all of a sudden they did it. "What? Who are they crying for, Hinata-chan?" he asked in a panic. "That's so cute." "That was funny, Naruto. You made them cry. Now it's your job to stop them," I told them. "I don't know what to do, please tell me." "Swing them gently, sing them a sweet song, or play with them. I don't know. You're by yourself. Sleep, babies, don't cry," he said as he started to swing them. Then he did some strange things. "Naruto-kun, you're not good at taking care of babies." While he tried all of his tricks, I smiled and laughed at him because they all failed so badly. He asked Hinata-chan with puppy eyes, "They're not stopping. Now you're so cute that you're melting my heart." She said, "Let me see." I grabbed the babies and calmed them down like a pro. I smiled and poked them behind the necks, and they fell asleep. What and how? In shock, Naruto saw how things had changed. "Hee, Naruto, don't be shocked. You'll be able to handle them in time," I told him. "Did you tell the Hokage what I told you?" I asked him. He changed his face and said, "Yes, Hinata-chan." I asked him if there is anyone or any clans that would want to take me in, but he said there is no one who wants me. Hee. "Do you remember what I told you before?" I whispered, "To be honest, the Hokage didn't ask my father, and it's fine for you to join my clan." "Yes, Hinata-chan, I remember everything you told me. There is no truth in the Hokage's lies, and he wants to use the fox inside me to hurt me." He swore in anger. Every time I asked him something, he lied to my face, even though I knew the truth. "But do not worry, Naruto-kun. I will see you every day starting next month," I told her. "Forget about the Hokage," he said. "His time is up." I smiled and said, "I have a gift for you." "Gift? Where is it?" He looked all over. "Hey, chill out. This was made just for you." I gave him the dress I had made for him, which was a black jacket with a high collar and red stripes on the sleeves, black pants, and a white t-shirt under it. "You need to wear them when you start the academy. Always look out the window. It makes you look mysterious, hee. I will make him one of the strongest and coolest shinobi." He said, "Thank you," in a whisper. "This is not the end. There is another gift for you." "Another one?" "A jutsu," I told him with a nod. I began telling him each hand sign on its own. "Remember these. It's called Shadow Clone Jutsu. I think these are very helpful, Naruto. You will go through the same things that the clone does." I told them what the shadow clones were really for. If you train with them, their progress will be added to yours. It would be great if I were teaching him. One thing I hate about school is when teachers leave their students to figure things out on their own. Naruto didn't know what shadow clones were for even after training with Jiraiya for 3 years. Jiraiya was never a real teacher in my eyes, and he never will be. It wouldn't surprise me if he was looking for the child of prophecy instead of Naruto. When he found out that he had Rinnegan, he first went to Nagato. Then he went to Minato, and finally Naruto, to force his dream of world peace on their young minds. "Who?" A second Naruto yelled, waking me up from my sleep. "Hey. Boss," the other copy of Naruto called the real one. They all said at the same time, "It's amazing. Hee, now your progress will be tripled, Naruto, and don't show it in public," I shouted. They all listened to me without question. "Yes, Hinata-chan." I messed up his hair and said, "Good boy." After spending a few more hours with him and teaching him more ninjutsu and taijutsu and calming down his many questions, I told him, "Until next time, I'll see you at the academy. Take care of yourself, okay?" "Okay, Hinata-chan." After that, I looked around the area and then left when no one was looking. Lady Hinata. Ren was waiting for me on a rooftop, using a way to blend in with his surroundings to keep me guessing. Let's go, I told them. Ren came up behind me and said, I need to ask you something. I'm all ears. Since you have so much chakra left over, why not use shadow clones? I don't understand. It will make your progress 100 times faster, he asked in a confused tone. Ha ha ha. I laughed at his silly question, and then I answered. Tell me, Ren, why doesn't shadow clone work? Because it uses too much chakra, he answered. It's not against the rules because of this, Ren. It can't do that because it has free will. It turns into a new being as soon as it's made, and I'm sure you don't want another Hinata. But you can disperse them with a single hand sign, he said. Haha, Ren. I can trust a random dog on the street, but not myself. You don't know how strong I really am, but I do. The things I had built for so long would fall apart in an instant. Ren didn't say anything else and didn't ask any more questions. Let's go home. The babies must be hungry.
I will continue the story in next part. Till then, we weeb offline.